President Zelensky has vowed to pursue all allegations of war crimes against Russian soldiers. There's going to be an extraordinary moment later this afternoon, about tea time, our time. He'll be calling on the UN on a video link to investigate the torture and the killing of civilians, and he'll be confronting, in that link, the Russian delegate, who, of course, denies everything.
The Ukrainian president has accused Russia of committing genocide, while Joe Biden has labelled Putin a war criminal. Yet our government is reluctant to go as far. Shadow Culture Secretary Lucy Powell joins us now from Manchester. No one has remained, unmoved and horrified. We're all horrified, aren't we, about the scenes coming out of Ukraine? We might have feared bad things were happening, but the degree is devastating, and warning is, of course, of worse to come. It seems there are two clear calls: greater sanctions, the most extreme sanctions, which begs the questions, why have we not done that already? And indeed, more and quicker military support, tanks, anti-aircraft missiles. What is the argument for why that hasn't happened already? Can you find one?
Well, you're absolutely right, Kate. I mean, it's appalling, the atrocities that we're seeing unfolding day in, day out, the criminal actions of the Russian army. Is just truly appalling. And none of us thought we would see this in this day and age, did we, in this era, in a European Western country. It's absolutely awful. So, yes, I mean, the sanctions can go further and could be tougher. There remain, I think, too many sort of loopholes and trusts and other vehicles for Russians based in this country, or their money based in this country, to get around. And we've been calling for those loopholes to be closed down actually long before this atrocity began to unfold. And we also support much more military aid. Actually, the UK government, we've been pretty good on that, but we think that could go further and faster as well. So I think there is cross-party agreements about some of that, but we want the government to go further.
There used to be, and I guess there still is, a legal definition of what it's reasonable to believe. It was called what the man on the Clapham omnibus would believe, and it was applied to libel cases. Would it be reasonable if the man on the Clapham omnibus decided that someone had been lied about? And if he did, then that was the legal test. And I suspect that if there was such a man alive today, sitting on the Clapham omnibus, and you asked him or her, is President Putin a war criminal? The resounding answer you get back would be yes, he absolutely is. If President Biden can call Putin a war criminal, why can't his foremost ally, special relationship and all that, Boris Johnson, say the same thing? Why are we shying away from calling him what he is, which is a war criminal? Well,
look, I mean, I think I personally believe that he is too, but of course I'm not there on the ground collecting the evidence. So I think, I don't know what the Prime Minister's reluctance might be about that. But what I do know is it's really important that independent investigators collect all that evidence as it's happening quickly and without sort of contention, so that Putin and his generals and those around him can be brought to justice in a war crime setting. And that's really important that is done, and it will take years, no doubt it will. Well, so there will be various.
If they were brought to justice in the kind of Nuremberg trial that you're clearly referring to there, let's say that happened in, say, 8 or 9 years, and they're all still alive, it would obviously be impossible to actually physically put them in the dock. They'd have to be tried in absentia. But assuming guilty verdicts all round, presumably the sanction then that would be applied to Russia would be a complete diplomatic freeze. We would simply stop talking to Russia.
Well, I don't think we're talking to Russia very much at the moment, are we? But, look, I think there are lots of things that would have to be in play at that time. We need to get the UN, of course, when we brought many of the former warlords in the Yugoslav war to justice, the UN Security Council had to agree to that prosecution. There was then obviously regime change there that meant that they could be brought to justice as well. Of course, Russia is a permanent member of the UN Security Council, so that makes some of those things difficult. But I think there is clear international consensus here that what Russia is doing is appalling, it's illegal, it is an atrocity, it is, I believe, in some circumstances, absolutely genocide as well.
Yeah.
And there are war crimes being committed, and we've got to work as an international community with all those restraints of our creaking international systems to bring those to justice after this event. But we need this to be over as quickly as possible as well, don't we?
And I suppose one of the cautions you're flagging is that you need evidence to go into a war, because we know when evidence isn't right, there can be repercussions. Let's take the Iraq War, for instance, that things that can then ramify around the world forevermore. There will be costs to us, won't there, if further sanctions are taken? Energy bills are already utterly crippling, terrifying. People are choosing between eating and heating. More and more people every day are facing that, and there's worse to come as we head towards the autumn. How do you, as a politician with constituents who I'm sure are terribly, people around you that are terribly worried about that, how do you balance what is the greater need?
Well, it is incredibly difficult, as you say, Kate, and energy bills more than doubling for many people already this month. We're likely to see that going up further. Food costs going up, the cost of petrol, those needing to get to work every day, seeing greater costs filling up their car. And increasingly, I hear stories, as I'm sure you do, people choosing to keep the heating off, pensioners on fixed incomes, families choosing between eating and heating, people unable to afford to get to work. And it is absolutely awful. And much of that actually was happening already before the Ukraine crisis. We were already seeing this real cost of living squeeze happening already. And of course, what's happening in Ukraine with the sanctions against Russia, and also not being able to get some of the food supplies from Ukraine that we would normally rely on in Europe and the UK coming through, that is having an impact.
Well, keeping it to energy. Just keeping it to energy and energy costs. Sorry to cut in, but we're very tight for time on today's show, so I'm sorry to bring that answer to a close. But we spoke to the co-leader of the Green Party on the programme earlier, and she, as an engineer, a trained energy engineer, was emphatic, as you would expect, in saying that renewables are the way forward, and that the quickest way to replace the amount of energy we currently get from Russia would be wind farms, solar panels, etc. And we could do that very, very quickly. What would you say to that?
Well, she is right in that sense. Look, we've got a triple effect here. We've got a resilience problem with energy. We've got a crisis of supply. We've got a crisis of cost. And we've got a crisis of net zero, of needing to deal with the climate crisis as well. And all of those things can be best met by us transitioning as quickly as possible to energy supplies, whether that's renewables or whether that's nuclear as well, energy supplies that we can create here ourselves in the UK and that meet our climate targets as well. So the quicker we transition, the better it will be for everybody. So it's important that we make that transition now. And the government have been dragging its feet on their new energy strategy, which apparently has been coming for weeks now, after sort of 12 years in government, where they've put many of these issues on hold, whether that's onshore wind, whether that's nuclear and other things. They've really done nothing for 12 years and now keep promising us week after week a new policy on these things.
OK.
Well, very good to talk to you this morning. Good to talk to you as always.
Lovely to see you, Richard.
OK, and just very quickly, will you be sitting in front of the television at about 5 o'clock to watch this historic moment in the UN?
If I can juggle that around making my children's tea and all my various childcare demands, as usual, I will.
There speaks a working woman. All right, thanks very much indeed.